It was there that Allah, the Almighty, revealed to Isa alayhi salam to gather whoever was with him to the hill of Torsina, to take refuge there from an army that was unmatched by anyone in its warfare. This hadith shows how corrupt Ya'juj and Ma'juj were, and how arrogant and foolish they were. When they aimed their arrows to kill the people of the heavens, Allah, the Almighty, ordained that some of their spears and arrows should come down bloodstained, as a form of deceit against them, and as a way of letting them continue in their disobedience. It also explains how barbaric they are. A closer look at the hadiths reveals that the Muslims were besieged on the hill of Torsina, with such a fierce siege that their logistics were depleted, to the extent that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said that the head of a bullock was more valuable to the besieged people than 100 gold dinars that were owned by people other than them. This saying of the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, if it refers to anything, then it is only to show how meager their provisions and supplies were. This time of hardship and distress was met with the submission to Allah that was practiced by Kalimatu Isa alayhi salam and his companions. So Allah granted their prayer by sending to Ya'juj Ma'juj worms that are usually in the nasal cavities of camels or goats, or other insects in very large numbers that attacked their necks, so that they all died simultaneously with a very sad death, some of them lying on top of others like a swarm of dead locusts. There is also information from some of the previous hadiths about a person from among the Muslims who was willing to sacrifice himself by going down the mountain, down the hill, to find out about the condition of their enemies Ya'juj Ma'juj, and then he saw them all lying dead. It was then that the good news was announced to the Muslims. However, this good news was not yet perfect, because the stench of Ya'juj Ma'juj spoiled everything around them. Then Isa and the Muslims who were with him again bowed themselves in prayer to Allah, asking him to free them from the stench of the carcasses of Ya'juj. Then began the second and final flash flood to hit the earth, with an uncharacteristic downpour of rain, from which nothing was spared. This rain or flash flood washed the foul-smelling carcasses of Ya'juj Ma'juj into the ocean. In another narration, it is mentioned that the rain only moistened the earth, while the carcasses of Ya'juj Ma'juj were carried by a kind of bird sent from the side of Allah, and then the bird threw them into the sea. In another narration, it is explained that the remains of the carcasses of Ya'juj Ma'juj were used as fertilizer for the soil, and some were eaten by the animals. In another narration, it is stated that the Muslims lit the fire of Ya'juj Ma'juj's weapons al-Kisi and an-Nisyab for 7 years. This indicates that their weapons were made of wood. By scrutinizing these narrations, we learn that after Ya'juj Ma'juj perished, blessings returned to the earth in an unusual form. With this battle, the battle of truth versus falsehood on earth was completed. Henceforth, the Muslims lived in great goodness until a good wind came. Then it took their lives and announced the end of this world. If we look at the last hadith of Nawas bin Salman, we find that it indicates that after the blessed era, a wind blows that takes the lives of the believers. Other hadiths indicate that there are signs before the blowing of the wind, including the rising of the sun from where it sets and the appearance of animals. There is no contradiction between these two things, because the hadith of Nawas only focuses on the battle between truth and falsehood, and does not include all other events that also occurred at that time. What is explained globally in some hadiths is explained in detail in others. Sincere advice. The lesson from all the hadiths about the Mahdi, Dajjal, and Ya'juj Ma'juj is that the center of the world battle is in the land of Sham. The amazing thing is that in the past and in later times, the pillars of falsehood have always approached the sanctified land gradually until their journey ended there. In the past, the fearsome Tatar and Mongolian attacks were finally finished when they gradually began to approach the Levant, namely at the decisive battle that finished them off at Ain Jalut. Likewise, the Romans who gradually approached this country, they were struck a deadly blow at Hithin Hitti. The Romans in the last days will also mobilize all their strength and gradually head for the great battle Malhama Ujma in the Levant. And it turns out that there too, they will finish their history with humiliation. Likewise, with Dajjal slowly but surely approaching the land, he and all his followers will meet their end there. Similarly, the Yaju-Maju who spread corruption throughout the world, they too will approach the sanctified land step by step to fulfill their end-of-life destiny there. It is as if the sanctified land Shem is the graveyard for all despotic tyrants on this earth. Question. Some people ask a useful question. Where are the Yaju-Maju of today that have been revealed in them the essence of the entire surface of the earth? This question is answered. We have determined who they were, at least according to the strongest guesses. They are the Turkic peoples, the inhabitants of the interior of Central Asia and the Siberian plains. It has been observed that for them the way out has been open, but also hidden in our time. We see in them several civilizations, but this region, in spite of its many advances, remains closed in all respects, and we do not hear anything about them except a little. Moreover, they still strongly hold on to the traditional heritage of their ancestors. For this reason, the area is currently the least influenced of the surrounding areas. Translator. The wall of Zulkarnain Caucasian Gate is better known as the Pillars, Stronghold, or Iran Gate of Alexander the Great by classical Western writers. It is also known as the Alan Gate, or the Iberian Gate. The wall is believed to be located in northern Georgia, southern Russia, in the central part of the Greater Caucasus Mountains, precisely at the foot of Mount Kazbek. So it is not surprising that the Georgian coat of arms sun, moon, and 5 stars is said to be very similar to the coat of arms of Laskandar Zulkarnain. This area is known as the Darial Pass or Darial Pass, which has an altitude of 3,950 feet or 1,204 meters above sea level, close to the Terek River. Since 1850, it has been the only access for the Russian army for colonizing purposes. Abul Kalam Azad wrote, in Georgia, there is a large pile of walls made of iron mixed with copper in the Caucasian Mountains, in a narrow area between 2 Darial hills. One steep hill extending from the Black Sea to the Kazwain Sea, 1,200 kilometers long. This hill is generally undisturbed, still firm, having a multi-layered shape. There was a high heap of pure iron mixed with pure copper, made to plug a hole in it. The local people were afraid to disturb or change it. Only natural changes take place there. Although there is some earth-moving activity around the wall, it has not damaged or penetrated it. This is why there are empty spaces between the stones of the hill and the wall of Zulkarnain. It seems that no human being on earth has been able to pierce or climb it. Abdullah Yusuf Ali in his commentary The Holy Quran writes, in the Hisar district of Uzbekistan, 240 kilometers southeast of Bukhara, there is a narrow pass between rocky mountains. It is located on the main Turkestan route to India, with coordinates 38 north latitude and 67 east longitude. The place is now called Buzhol Khana in Turkish, but its Arabic name used to be Bab el-Hadid. The Persians called it Dar el-Ahani. The Chinese called it Tai Men Quan. They all mean the Iron Gate. Al-Sharif el-Drisi in Musat al-Musitak Filkatirak al-Afak quoted a story from Salam, a scientist during the time of Caliph al-Watsik Billah. It is said that the Caliph once dreamed that the barrier built by Izandar Zulkarnain to imprison Yaju-Maju was open. The dream prompted him to send Salam, accompanied by 50 men, to find out about the wall. Salam's party set out for Armenia. In that country, he met Ishaq bin Ishmael, the ruler of Armenia. From Armenia, he traveled north. He took a letter from Ishaq to the ruler of Sarir, then to the king of Lan, then to the ruler of Phalan. The names of these regions are not known today. The ruler of Phalan sent 5 guides to help Salam reach the Yaju-Maju mountains. For 27 days, Salam waded through the ruins of the Bastarat region. He then came to a large area of black, bad-smelling soil. For 10 days, Salam passed through that area. He then came to an area that had been devastated without inhabitants. It was the area destroyed by Yaju-Maju long ago. After walking again for 6 days, they found an inhabited area located behind the mountain where Yaju-Maju were. Salam then went to the mountains of Yaju-Maju. There he saw the mountains separated by a valley. The valley was about 150 meters wide, with a wall of iron doors about 50 meters high, with large columns on the left and right made of iron beams cast with copper liquid, on which the giant door leaf hung, exactly as the letter Al-Kafi reads. Residents around the mountain usually hit the lock of the iron door 3 times a day. After that, they put their ears to the door to listen to the reaction from inside the door. Apparently, they heard an echo of screaming from inside. This shows that inside the door, there really are human-type creatures who are said to be Yaju-Maju. Salam once asked the people around the mountains if anyone had seen Yaju-Maju. They claimed to have seen hordes of people. On top of the enclosing wall. Then a stormy wind blew them away. The people there saw that their bodies were very small. After that, Salam returned via Taraz, Kazakhstan, then Samarkand, Uzbekistan, then the city of Railran, and returned to Al-Watsiq's palace in Suraman Ra, Iraq. He then related in detail the results of his journey to the Caliph. Editor, from various sources. It is possible that at certain times in the future, we can imagine significant changes taking place on our globe, so that things will return to the way they were in those areas. It is also possible that the openness, ease of reproduction, in a certain pattern, will make the population increase tremendously. As we already know that the region is indeed the most populated area in the world. We observe in some areas, China, for example, that there is a birth restriction program imposed on its people. In fact, something that is prohibited is usually something that is expected. Therefore, if the prohibition were to become stronger due to certain conditions that befall the globe in general or the region in particular, then it is conceivable that the acceptance of illegitimate births would very much occur as an alternative to the prohibition being imposed upon them. Likewise, it is very likely that the movement of the nations to repeat their attacks that have been known to be different from others in the past will be carried out at the time of the final attack, with a much larger number of personnel. These invasions and attacks are all highly probable, and it will not take but 1 or 2 generations of their descendants to realize them in the real world. And what we see as impossible and difficult in the present will sometimes be the simplest and easiest in the not-too-distant future. I present one example. If you had said to whomever you wanted before the last century, the Jews will really gather in the land of Palestine, and they will have a powerful force. They will be the most respected military power on the face of the earth, then some of them would have found the statement strange and even impossible. Or at least they consider it among the things that cannot be imagined. Especially since the Palestinians themselves at that time had never been prepared militarily even to face the Jews in very small numbers for centuries. This thing that was considered impossible has now become a reality, and we can all witness it. If so, every event has its own time, and every event has its own preparation.